Hello. So in this video, we're going to be talking about ALS and Lou Gehrig's disease. Interchangeable, but the same thing. But the we're going to talk about ALS symptoms, causes, cures, and later on we're going to have another video. That's pretty neat. It's called the Prevention Smoothie Challenge. Title of this movie. But I found some pretty interesting information on the internet about ALS, possible symptoms, causes, and cures. Basically on YouTube. So what we're going to do is watch some clips of videos here for a couple of minutes, just to show what kind of things are happening with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. Take a look.
In the scientific literature, this does not come out of my thumb, this comes out of the scientific literature. Chronic fatigue. Many people speak to me about chronic fatigue. Take out the dairy, and the problem is very often solved. Tension headaches, musculoskeletal pain, hyperactivity, bedwetting, allergies and congestion. Many allergies can be taken straight back to dairy. Asthma and respiratory difficulties. Well, for one, my wife was an asthma sufferer. She had to take an asthma pump. She could not go anywhere without an asthma pump. She was a constant asthma sufferer. It was a nightmare. And since she threw out the dairy, she didn't have to use the asthma pump. It took about 6 months in her case. And she never needed an asthma pump again. In fact, once we had a knock on the door, and an asthmatic was having a terrible asthma attack right then. It was tough. We had to rush him to the hospital. But she had her last asthma pump, which had been lying for months in her drawer, and she gave it to him, and that helped him to get to the hospital. So asthma, very definitely involved. Early arteriosclerosis from oxidized cholesterol. Now, this is a very important point. Cholesterol itself is not so problematic. Oxidized cholesterol is problematic. And milk is in air and oxidizes very readily. And milk is one of the prime sources of oxidized cholesterol. And you would want to avoid that as much as you can. Juvenile diabetes, we've dealt with in quite some detail. Acne, all the problems associated with trying to get rid of the products you cannot digest come out through the skin. Acne, rheumatoid arthritis is often associated with dairy consumption, and all the nerve disorders like neuralgic diseases, Gehrig's disease, multiple sclerosis, and IQ. There are numerous studies which show that children raised on dairy have a considerably lower IQ than children raised on mother's milk, for example. So with all this listing, why would you want to use dairy products?
Our figures are not 97%, they're 100%. 100% of the samples we have run are contaminated with very bad pathogenic, which means disease-producing bacteria. We're talking over 350 samples. So 350 out of 350 suggests 351 is going to be contaminated too. And we do have 300,000 data points of chemistry information over the last several decades showing that when the mercury and the root canals and something called cavitations are cleaned up and you balance the chemistry, the body can recover from a lot of these incurable diseases. There was a trigger event that happened in 1976 because multiple sclerosis was reasonably stable, 8,800 plus or minus 100 or 2 cases a year through 1970, 71, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then in 1976 it went from 8,800 to 123,000 new cases a year. But in 1976, what happened? The Dental Association, irritated with the fact that I was saying that mercury was poisonous, one of their quotations was, yes, mercury is the most poisonous toxic element on the planet. However, get this, in the mouth, its toxic properties are rendered harmless. But people believe that sort of thing. that you take the most toxic element in the world and put it in the mouth, and now it is safe. It's interesting, you know these new light bulbs, these corkscrew things that are full of mercury? If you break one of those, somebody sent me the paper the other day of all the things you have to do. First you call Obama, no, that was on something else. Anyway, there are a lot of things that you have to do. There are 500,000 times more mercury than that in one filling. And not to worry. What's going on here? Looking at this chart, you can see that MS went up tremendously. So did Lou Gehrig's disease, which when I was a kid, Lou Gehrig was a ball player. And my cousin, Miller Huggins, was manager of Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth. So I thought there was only one baseball team in the world, the New York Yankees. And now I find he's not a ball player anymore, he's a disease. 20 years ago, I heard about it maybe once every 6 months. Now we get calls on it maybe 2 or 3 times every day. I know what the cause is. We are getting some success. And since it's incurable, hey, 1% is better than 0. Well, we're doing better than 1%.
I had this cramping, and even the fingers started to curl in. These 3 fingers began to curl, and I would have to physically pry it open. They really want dramatic changes before they diagnose you with ALS because it's a death sentence and there's nothing they can do.
I was diagnosed with bulbar type ALS. I was given a year to live. I was struggling to breathe, to swallow, to climb a simple set of stairs, and was losing my ability to speak.
After about 2.5 years of testing, I was diagnosed with ALS. I was told to go home and get my affairs in order.
You have motor neuron disease, which is what we call ALS over here. And I said, and what is motor neuron disease? And I got the textbook reply. And I said, so what's the prognosis? And he said, well, you have about 2 years to live.
He told me I had ALS. He also told me I was going to die.
Many were diagnosed by top neurologists at major medical centers.
Instead of accepting the diagnosis, these determined individuals researched, experimented, sought innovative treatments, and consulted with doctors and other practitioners.
I refused to accept the prognosis of my pessimistic doctors and dismissed them. I aggressively sought and found alternative therapies.
My approach has been holistic from the beginning.
This is dandelion greens. And dandelion greens, I've already washed them. Because they're weeds, they're actually very high in minerals. Wild foods are really good for you.
Carol has taken a different stance. She and I work together aggressively with IV therapies. We work with oral therapies, and again, lifestyle. It's a combination approach that seems to have made the major impact.
If you take the coconut oil, you have a much better chance. But the key, from all of this it tells me is keeping high amounts of ketones in your system.
The best fuel for your brain cells are medium-chain triglycerides, which are fats, and they're most abundantly found in coconut oil or coconut butter. So coconut butter is a brain food.
There are a whole host of brain diseases that are linked to mercury epidemiologically. Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, ALS, MS, autism, and acrodynia are all brain diseases, and that they're all linked to mercury.
I have removed all the toxin from my body.
How can anybody graduate from hospice and still be alive today if they haven't done something really dramatic other than the conventional medical system?
I remember him coming saying, they say I have Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, and we both made a pact that we would do everything possible to keep him alive, and amazingly he's done that.
So I'm just going to prepare a simple green smoothie. I don't really follow recipes, I just kind of do my own thing. So I'm just going to put in a few dates here at the bottom, about 5 of them. That way they blend up easier when they're down by the blaze. Go ahead and put some spinach in. do a frozen banana or two. Got a tropical blend with some strawberries, mangoes, and pineapple. And I'm going to add some cherries. Cherries in there. You do some coconut butter. Pineapple. Alright. I'm going to do a little bit of some organic maca powder in here. Spring water. And just blend it right up. You soak the dates first. They blend a lot better than that. And then it's ready to serve.
Alright, we're having our smoothies. Smoothies! This is what we're calling our prevention smoothie challenge. Awesome. Very good. Now go make it. I'll tag you. Go make your own smoothie.